This is a typical kitchen in Guatemala, which is also a common sight throughout the world where wood is used as their primary source of fuel. The cooking is done on an open fire on the ground on what is called a three-stone fire. Tortillas, beans, and tamales are commonly cooked on this fire, while children play, sleep, and warm themselves by it. There is no chimney and no ventilation in these kitchens other than the gaps in the ceiling or walls. Needless to say, the living environment is smoke-filled. Large amounts of firewood are daily brought in on the backs of the family members, many times from great distances. This is the way cooking has been done for centuries, and the way it continues to be done today. Guatemala is a nation of 12 million people, located below Mexico in Central America, and is shared by both Latinos, a mix of Spanish and Mayan descent and culture, and the indigenous of Mayan descent and culture. Firewood is used from the trees taken from a terrain and climate that varies from cool mountains to low-lying jungle. Subsistence farming and poverty is a way of life for many in Guatemala and Latin America as they scrounge to make ends meet, keep their children healthy, and find enough fuel to cook and feed the family. In the 80s, help began bringing teams of medical volunteers to Guatemala to address the many health needs. Doctors began noticing a pattern of burn victims, respiratory problems, and smoke-related eye complications caused by open fires within the kitchens where the women work.
Okay, we're in the HELPS clinic and a medical team, and this young boy here is just being treated for a burn. He is an epileptic and he fell into the open three-stone fire in his home. This is a classic example of one of the common kinds of injuries that we're trying to prevent by having our HELP stove put into homes, keeping the fire off the floor and preventing these kind of injuries.
This is a 17-year-old boy that suffered a severe burn when he was 3 years old, secondary to an open fire in the kitchen. The whole house got fired. He's got a severe burn contracture in both of his upper extremities here.
When she was 2 years old, she fell out of her bed onto a fire in the house, and she lay there for 2 hours before her mum came back from either doing the laundry or some other chores.
Pedro is a 15-year-old boy who has been treated by HELP's medical teams. Pedro was 8 years old when he suffered burns due to a three-stone fire. But burns are not the only health hazard of three-stone fires. Doña Rosa is a woman who has worked all her life over an open fire cooking for her family. Doña Rosa has a severe respiratory problem, probably caused or made more acute by working over and living by an open fire all her life. For 3 meals a day, every day, many Guatemalan women like Doña Rosa breathe a steady intake of smoke. Daily smoke inhalation begins as an infant and for women continues throughout their entire life. What you are seeing are soot icicles formed after extended smoke and soot buildup. Imagine the consequences of daily smoke inhalation on the human body and lungs. Cooking on an open fire means using wood for fuel. Finding firewood in many areas of Guatemala is becoming more and more difficult. The price of firewood rises as it becomes more scarce, further marginalizing the already poor. Ultimately, the effects on the environment due to deforestation are devastating.
This is wood for one day. and she is carrying firewood for one day as well.
The problem is clear. Traditional open fire cooking causes serious health problems and environmental deforestation. But what is the solution? What solution will change the traditional way of life held for ages? In a developed country, propane or natural gas would probably be the logical solution, but the challenges of purchasing power and accessibility in developing countries makes this solution not viable for many. Don O'Neill, stove developer and director with Helps International, began looking for a possible solution.
I was in Santa Evelina, Guatemala, where we have a health promoter program. Took some time there, and we studied the cooking problems, the cooking techniques that they had. We did a fairly complete survey. We had 60 families in the program. We documented how they cooked on the 3-stone fire, but we also wanted to know how much they cooked and in what type of pots they cooked. So the goal of the project became clear that we wanted to have a stove that was not just a box that held the fire, but we wanted to have a well-designed, efficient stove that would cut down the wood consumption, a chimney that would get the smoke out of the house, cut down the respiratory problems, and of course get it up off the floor where the kids would not fall into the fire and cause these serious burns that we were seeing. And we set about to design such a stove.
Using combustion principles pioneered by Dr. Winiarski of Aprovecho Research, helps design and tested prototypes of a safe, fuel-efficient stove system. Furthermore, helps recognize early on that crucial to the success of any stove solution will be to test the new stove system on the field, in a village, in home kitchens. After all, the bottom line lay in whether the people who did the cooking accepted the solution. That is why people like Bill Brierly closely worked with the women in Santa Evelina for over 1 year.
Well, we field tested 7 of these stoves in this village of Santa Evelina. During that 12 months, myself and other people came here and we checked the stoves out, we talked to the ladies of the house, and over those 12 months, because of the women's input and because of experimenting with different materials, we ended up with the stove that you see here right now.
Richard Grinnell is a stove engineer and trainer for the Helps stove. Richard is in the village of Santa Cruz in the Guatemalan department of Quiché. The women are seeing the Helps stove for the first time and are excited.
Me levanto más tarde.
I get up later, an hour later. You should have seen how it was. The fire would go out and I'd have to restart it. It was so difficult, but now I get done with my housework early. In my free time, I make placemats or embroider. I'm able to do this because now I have more time. Before I didn't.
The Helps stove's ability to quickly heat up the stove top means that the wood is burning efficiently. And if the wood is burning more efficiently, then firewood is being saved.
My new wood stove uses a lot less firewood than the open fire system I used to use. What I like about the stove is that we use less firewood and it is not so hot inside the kitchen.
In addition to saving firewood, if the wood is burning more efficiently in the Helps stove, then there is less smoke. Smoke is wasted energy.
What I like is that it doesn't make smoke and that I save on firewood. What I like is that it isn't smoky. Before, it was like a smokehouse in here. It was so smoky. Before, the smoke was inside. Now it goes outside.
People and their homes move. Kitchens and rooms move. A huge advantage to the people is that the Helps stove is portable.
The interesting thing with this stove is that we actually built it in a kitchen that they just knocked down a couple of months ago. So they took this from the old kitchen, moved it in here and set it up by themselves, and it actually looks great. So the people here are able to take it apart, put it back together again without any seemingly difficulty. So I'm pretty impressed.
Pedacitos de madera, ¿sí? Ya que esté prendido el fuego.
Richard is sharing with the women of San Felipe de Jesus a complementary stove model that helps has developed to cook large volumes of food or corn for their tortillas.
During our field work in rural Guatemala, we've seen that they use large pots to cook large amounts of food when they have a party, or to cook large amounts of corn, up to 35 pounds of corn, to make their tortillas, to do their nixtamal. That's why we came up with this idea of a second stove to complement our plancha stove, which is called the nixtamal stove. This stove, as you can see here working behind me, we have a 16-inch pot working right now, and we can modify this stove to work with up to a 20-inch pot with this half 50-gallon drum we use as a base. Inside it works exactly the same as a plancha stove. It uses a combustion chamber, and we use this skirt around the pot, which actually increases the surface area that the fire is heating. By this we increase it 300-fold, and we get more efficient use of the firewood, and we manage to boil the water or to cook whatever we're cooking in a shorter amount of time with less wood.
Muy buena y funciona más mejor en que
It's great. It works better than making a big open fire with a huge amount of firewood being held up by 3 big stones.
lleva mucha leña, pero en cambio estas son muy.
This is more economical because it uses less firewood.
These Chile-speaking women from Santa Evelina are in a training session for the Helps stove. After some warm-up activities, the trainer, Noemi, takes the women through a basic training in how to use and maintain the stove.
The training is very important because with this stove we use methods that are very different from the traditional ones. For example, traditional methods use a lot of firewood. This stove uses very little firewood. The training is simple but efficient for the success of the stove use.
Peace Corps, missionaries, non-governmental organizations, private farm owners, and helps community assistance are the actual link for people to obtain the stoves.
I, with the help of Helps International, did this stove project. And basically it was kind of a process of elimination. Peace Corps had done all kinds of different types of stoves, and we'd found some kind of faults. Either they were too hard to assemble, too difficult for assembly, and we're doing a kind of a mass project here with 78 stoves. So I wanted something that would always be a uniform product, always be something that, you know, would work right every time. And so the other stoves that we had done seemed like they'd be a little too complicated for the people to put together by themselves. But this one is kind of a slam dunk. We came in and we showed people how to do it, and like I said, the people know how to put it together by themselves, and so if they have any problems, they can take it apart, put it back together, fix everything on their own. So you put it in, show a few people how to install it, and bam, that's it. So it's a really nice stove.
Helps partners with existing organizations who work with the people. There are many ways to help out the people in Latin America and in countries like Guatemala. At Helps, we feel that promoting and training people in the use of the Helps stove is an effective means for health prevention and environmental protection. If you would like to be part of this effort or learn more about it, please contact Helps International Dallas. Or Helps International Guatemala.